Welcome back to the Wizard Shop, and it's time for another really crazy Wizard project with this beautiful muscle car. Let's take a look at it.
Wow, Wizard, this is going to be quite the task.
Yeah, what do you think about this thing, Mrs. Wizard?
It's quite the old classic vintage muscle car you got.
It is really cool. This is a 1966 Chevelle Malibu. And I picked it up from a guy not too far here in Kansas, not too far away, and had Crazy D's parents deliver it to the shop for me. We've got some crazy plans with this. We're going to take a look around it, but first let's talk a little bit about the Chevelle series.
It's not setting right, Wizard. Are there air shocks on it? What's going on?
No, it's what's called a roller. There's no engine, no transmission in it.
I guess that saves you time ripping one out.
Yeah, and I bought it that way on purpose.
So what did this thing come with?
It came with originally a 283, and it was a 2-speed automatic.
So not quite a grandma car, but definitely not the classic, hot rod of the era.
Right. It has the 4-door hardtop, which is called a sports sedan in those years, and I personally like that better. Some people would prefer the 2-door hardtop, but I like the proportions, the length of this opening here. The length of the car looks much better. I think personally the 2-door hardtop, it comes real short and slants back, and I personally think that looks ugly. I really don't like it. This one looks mean and muscular. It's got broad shoulders. It's got the nice length that I like. Some people don't like 4 doors, but I happen to like them, and you can get them a lot cheaper.
Didn't they come out with these in '64?
Yeah, this is the first gen Chevelle. They came out with them in '64. And they made their first gen until '67.
Now, while they were making these, they also were, this was trying to compete with the Chevy 2 Nova and the Impala. This kind of fit between those two.
Right. Yeah, in these years, you could have gotten a smaller Nova or Chevy 2, or you could have gotten a larger Impala SS. This was kind of like a middle. It wasn't a mid-size Nova. I guess the Nova was actually kind of small.
It was, yeah. I used to have one eons ago, and they were a pretty small little car. This one
would have been a mid-sized car. And they made the Chevelle name from '64 to '77.
So what kind of engines did they all come with? They all didn't come with the V8. That wasn't standard back in those days.
No, they could add an inline 6, which was a 194 or a 230 or a 250.
The 194, that's what my '63 Nova used to have.
Yeah. And then if you stepped up to the small blocks, you had a 283 or a 327.
Now those still seem kind of small, because once guys got the hold of these, in the muscle car era, they were dropping some pretty big engines in there. Like the 454 with, a 4-barrel carburetor. Those things could eat the gas.
Yeah. You could have gotten a big block option, and this was just 396, which is the same family as 427, 454. It's all the same engine block. So in the first generation of these Chevelles, Malibu was a trim level. It wasn't a model all its own yet. It would become one. But this one is a '66 Chevelle Malibu trim level. It actually says Malibu on the dash, but on the rear trunk lid it says Chevelle. It's a Chevelle, but it's a Malibu Chevelle. It's kind of confusing.
Yeah, it definitely gets confusing when they start actually changing the name Chevelle to actually just to being Malibu.
Right. And there was actually 4 different variations of the Chevelle you could have gotten in these years. You could have got just the Chevelle, like a 300 series or something like that. And then they had a Chevelle station wagon. And they had, actually is the car that started El Camino. Mm-hmm. And then, which is like a truck. And then they had the Malibu edition of a Chevelle.
Well, and then don't forget the Super Sport.
Yeah, that would be a SS 396, right. That would be another model as well. But it was a Chevelle SS. It was still a Chevelle.
Right.
So let's take a look around this thing. I bought it purposely with rust. It's got lots of rust along the bottom. I'm going to be repairing in the videos and showing you guys what I'm going to do. I'm not going to restore this back to factory like brand new. That's not my goal. I never even intended when I bought this. I'm going to make it look nice, fix all the issues that it has, and then we're going to be putting a really cool engine in it. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. But let's take a look around and see what I got. So this one is a barn find. Somebody had tried to start working on it. They actually had an engine in it, and for whatever reason, I don't know why, they stopped. They pulled the engine and everything and just sold it. Maybe they ran out of funds. Maybe they took a different direction. Who knows what happened. But this came up for sale on Marketplace, and with having it shipped here and everything, I paid a little over $4,000 for a roller. These cars, when they're in really good shape, are very expensive. I took a look at some collector sites of Chevelle, especially the two-door hardtops that are restored. You're getting into 40, 50, 60 grand. So $4 grand is really not that much for one of these. You would think $4,000 for a roller that's got rust all over it, but it's not just any old car. It's a really nice Chevelle. So let's take a look around. We'll start up here. It has rust holes here right under the emblem. You can tell it's been bondoed before. It has a little bit of bondo. I'll be using some metal filler when I go to cut that out and repair it. And the nice thing as we go along, you'll see that it doesn't have giant dents in it. It just has these rust issues. It has the nice period correct rally wheels with brand new tires on it. I purposely bought it from the seller this way. He was going to put just some cheap tires and some wheels, just throw them on and ship it that way. And I said, no, I want these wheels and tires on it. So they look really nice. They're brand new. It had some little, looks like a chain or something scratched it. You could see the chain links. I'm not sure what happened there. Or maybe something fell on it. As we move on down, you can see that there's rust in the rockers down here. And there's more rust here. There's going to be a lot of rust on this car. But I have seen some of these that are completely just destroyed. This one has some rust, but it's not as bad as it could be. And there's some down here. And as we get back here, it's pretty bad. I probably will cut this section out, and they make patch panels that just weld right in. I will be doing that myself. There was an emblem here that's missing, and I'm not sure what emblem goes there. Maybe it said Malibu or something.
At least on this side, Car Wizard, the chrome looks really good.
Yep, chrome looks good. There's no rust around the windows. All the glass is intact, and there's no dents or crinkles in it. That's what I really like. You can see on the trunk lid, the blue paint is fading down to the brownish pink colored primer. Hoovie actually said I should sand it and clear coat it just like it is, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I want it to look nice. And here we can see it says Chevelle, but on the dash it says Malibu. I looked up the VIN number, and it is in fact a Malibu. A V8 automatic Malibu.
Well, or at least it was when it had its engine.
Yeah, but the bumper's in good shape, not dented or dinged up. It is missing the trunk lock. I'll have to get a new lock for it. And we go down this side. This is the worst of the rust here as far as the rocker panels. Again, I'll be just cutting probably along this line here and weld in a new piece. There's some paint flaking right there. A little bit of a rust hole there. These small holes I probably will use metal filler on, but the larger stuff will get cut out. There's some more rust hole there. And we're missing our rocker molding down here. We'll have to source one of those. And there's a nice hand-sized rust hole there. And here's the emblem in a tiny rust hole. And the front looks great. It's not banged up or beat up. The hood is intact. It's not caved in, nothing dropped on it. So many of these cars that are barn finds, over the years sitting in the barn, Grandpa dropped a hay bale on it or whatever and just caved stuff in. But this one is intact. The roof, whatever you want to call it, hood, trunk is all intact.
Yeah, the chrome on this thing looks really, really good. The 63 Nova I had was pitted and wasn't the best, but it was, 60 years old.
Yeah, the story of this car is rust. That's the thing we're going to have to really address with this. I'm not going to worry about that too much until we do our engine swap, which we'll talk about here in a minute. But let's take a look at the interior. The interior is roached. It is in bad shape. Luckily, these are such common cars and such cool collector items as far as collector cars go. There is a plethora of replacement aftermarket dash pads, headliners, seat covers, door cards, everything you could ever want. And they're actually not very expensive. $180 for this. You get these $40 or $50 a piece for the door cards. They're not that bad. One thing that's really cool about this car that I like is it is a factory air conditioning car. All the equipment is there to hook up the AC, and I'll have factory AC in this car, and I definitely will be doing that. Let's take a look in the glove box. Nothing. You can set your Coke cans here. I don't think they'd stay there if you're racing around town. There's these gauges, these aftermarket gauges. I probably will be taking them off and putting them right here where the radio goes. Make a plate. And then, just like in Hoovie's Woodsy Wagon, the 51 Country Squire, he has a Bluetooth amp that's hidden inside the dash. And then it runs to the speakers. There is no visible radio. That's what I'll be doing with this car. I'll just key in on my phone what I want to listen to and listen to it that way. So the gauges will now go where the radio used to go. I think it'll look clean and look a lot better than stuff hanging down from the bottom of the dash. I don't like that. As you can see on the shifter right there at the bottom of the speedometer, it says PR NDL. It was a 2-speed power glide. 70-some thousand miles on it. And I believe that's actual miles. The key is in the ignition, and I probably will just keep it that way, just use the stock ignition. It needs cleaned up, it needs reupholstered. I'll let my upholstery guy, Lowen Upholstery here in Newton, I'll let him do the headliner and the seats for me. I can replace the door cards and stuff myself, but the rear deck will need to be reupholstered, and I'll get some new speakers. It'll be nice in here, it won't be bad at all. Most people would look at this right now and say, oh my goodness, that thing is roached out, it's overwhelming, I don't even know where to start. But I've been through this before, it's actually not that bad. Once you start putting a new dash pad on, pull the carpet up, new carpet, get the seats reupholstered, bolt them back in, it actually goes pretty quick on one of these cars. Not so much if it was a Bentley or something really high-end, but these are very simple to fix up on the interior.
Now what's amazing, Car Wizard, is this actually seats 6 people.
Yeah, it could seat 6 people. It has the old lap belts in it. Body by Fisher. It has the Fisher emblem on it. The little carriage. Let's go ahead and take a look at the engine, or the lack thereof. Okay, let's go ahead and get this thing opened up. Oh look, it's another hood that won't hold itself up. Isn't that a common sight in today's cars, Mrs. Wizard?
Yes, it's sad.
I don't know why they always are that way.
What a great holder you have.
It's a shower curtain rod out of the boat, out of the big yacht. It needs new springs. The springs are weak on it. So as you can see, it did have an engine in here, some kind of a stroker motor or something. I'm not sure what they had in it. But it's got manual steering and manual brakes, and I probably will be leaving it that way because it's a lot simpler and they work fine. I'm not going to be taking this thing to the track. I'm not going to race it, so I don't need all the other fancy, crazy stuff with it. But we are going to be putting a weird engine in here. I'll give you guys a couple of hints, and then in the comments section you can see if you can guess what it's going to be. Number one, the engine is not going to be a diesel. It's not going to be some crazy Duramax or something. No, we're not doing diesel swaps. And number two, it's not going to have 8 cylinders. It's going to have more than 8 cylinders.
What? You're not LS swapping it?
No, everybody LS swaps everything. We're going to do something really cool. It's going to be at Cars and Coffee, and people are going to open the hood and they're going to go, oh my gosh! LS swaps are boring. Those are dime a dozen. But it's going to be a really cool engine. You guys are going to really want to hit the subscribe button, especially you want to keep up with this project. So we're going to be doing the boat and this as well this winter. One thing before we close the hood and get this thing on the lift and take a look underneath, as I said, here's the factory air conditioning. Everything's there to tie in an A6 compressor, which I'm going to use. I'll have factory AC and heater. Really, really excited about that. But the engine bay's clean, it's in good shape, it's not all rusted out. So you can see the engine bay is very long and very wide. It can fit a numerous amount of different styles of engines. So you could put any kind of anything you could think of in here almost. You could fit a Cummins if you wanted to, but as I said, we're not doing diesel. So let's get this hood closed and get it on the lift. It kind of reminds me of a little joke that my mentor used to play on new mechanics at the shop I was at. we would have a vehicle with no engine, no transmission in it for whatever reason, and we would be getting it back on a lift to get ready to install the engine and transmission back into it. And as we would be pushing the car on the lift, he would say, "Hurry, hurry, run and put it in park." And the new guy would, "Oh, it doesn't even have a transmission in it." No, it didn't do any good. Well, let's go ahead and lift it up. Okay, well, let's take a look underneath of this thing. I don't see any leaks. Do you see, Mrs. Wizard?
No, nothing to look for.
Hello, hello. No, there's nothing in there. No leaks, no radiator or anything to look at. Like I said, it has the manual steering. I'll be keeping it that way. So I'll go ahead and check the wheels anyway. As you can see, it has the factory drum brakes. It needs the wheel bearings packed, I can tell that. The shocks are there, they're not blown out. I'll probably replace them anyway. I don't know if I'm going to lower this or what I'm going to do. Depends on the engine when I put in here, how it sits. Go over to here. Same thing there, I need the bearings repacked. I don't see a blown out shock there either. And amazingly, this has sway bars. They're not loose. That's good. We'll move on back to the transmission. Oh! There isn't one. You can see where the shifter was. Another tip I'll give you guys for the engine I'm going in, it will have a GM transmission, a 700R4. So it'll be bolting right up using the same drive shaft. But the floor pans are good. Move on back. Floor pans are good there. You can see it had some sort of rust proofing, like a coating on it years and years ago. Has some old rusty exhaust. That stuff's going to go away. I believe it has 330 something rear end. I'll have to look up the code on the data plate or the tag on the differential. But it's got coil springs in the back. It's pretty neat to see for the 60s that it has all this setup here. 4-link. It's got control arms basically for the rear axle.
Yeah, a lot of them at that era had leaf springs.
Yeah, this one was kind of ahead of its time. They will put coil springs and a nice setup for the rear end. Not surprising, this thing has a brand new gas tank in it. Somebody put that in, I didn't put that in. So that's nice. I'll have a brand new tank to start with. I don't have to worry about a rusted out old tank. And check back here on the wheels. The shocks again look decent, but I'll probably be replacing them anyway. The tires, like I said, are brand new. They still have the little nipples all over them. We'll take a look at this shock. Looks good. So everything's looking good under here. Here's where you get gas, just like the old days, Mrs. Wizard.
Well, that makes it handy. You don't have to worry about which side to pull up to.
Yep, it doesn't matter. So there is rust along the sides on the rocker panels. There's a little bit of rust here or there. And all of it's easily addressable. They even make patch panels. Are cheap. They're not expensive at all. So we'll get those things fixed up. But you guys definitely want to keep up on the videos that are coming out. You want to keep up with this project because it's going to be really, really cool. The engine I'm going to use is already ordered. It's on its way. And there's going to be some sponsors that are going to help out with this swap. We'll get into that as soon as we start putting the engine in. Let's go ahead and get this thing on the ground. So I'm looking forward to doing this swap, you guys. When I reveal the engine, you're going to be like, oh, what the heck? It's really going to be really, really cool. I really like this era, 65, 66, Impala, Chevelle. I'm a GM guy when it comes to the older cars. I love these cars. I definitely had to have one when this one came up, and we're going to do something really cool with it. If you're curious what kind of tools we're going to use to work on this swap, check my Amazon affiliate link in the description below. It doesn't add anything or cost extra, but we get a small cut of what you guys spend. And make sure you hit the subscribe button, because this is going to be awesome when it's done. You guys are going to love it. Thanks for watching.